meeting will come to order. And I want to make sure my mic's on. Is it working properly?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, we will start the meeting with the land acknowledgement statement first, and then the mission statement, and then we'll go to the flag salute. This will only take a few moments. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for their community and these lands. And now for the mission statement. The Franklin-McKinley School District will ensure all 8th grade student graduates have the skills and knowledge to be ready for a college preparatory curriculum in high school. They all will have the ability to pursue a program preparing them for university and/or careers and lifelong learning. Okay, next on the agenda is the flag salute, and we are honored today to have Kennedy School do the flag salute. So let's go ahead and proceed. Thank you, Kennedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand and remove your hats for the presentation of colors? Color guard, advance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Color guard dismiss. Thank you. Please be seated. Hello, my name is Emily Gonzalez, and I'm here with my mom and my siblings.
My name is Glenn Smith, and none of my family are here today. Kennedy family.
I'm Heaven Kalika, and I'm here with my mom and my little brother. I am Sophia Marujo, and I'm here with my mom.
I'm Anthony, and I'm here with my mom and dad.
I'm Rajon Cayetano, and I'm here with my parents.
Okay, thank you, Kennedy School. That's okay to celebrate. Okay, next on the agenda is item 3.03, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Are there any board members with any? Seeing none. Item 3.04, approve, disapprove order of the agenda. Board members? Seeing none, we'll move on. Report of action, 3.05, report of action taken in closed session.
Yes, thank you. The board unanimously approved the closed session minutes of August 9th, 2022, with board member Ton Tran absent. No other actions to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. Item 4, oral communications. Okay, I'll read the oral communication statement, but I would like the audience to know if you're here to speak on behalf of the Communications Hill, the new school. We're going to have that next on the agenda, so if you want to make comments during the item, you can wait till then, and we will call on you to either ask questions or make a comment if you'd like to do that, okay? So we're gonna have a presentation, then we're gonna go ahead and take on comments or suggestions, okay? Okay, so this is for any other item on the agenda. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's full consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each, unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Do we have any oral communications at this time for any other item on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to item 5, information discussion and or action items. 5.01, Communications Hill update, and Mr. Jason Van will provide the presentation, then we'll take questions and comments after that.
Good evening, board members. This is an opportunity for staff to provide the board an update along with our consultants from MCI, as well as Sugimori Finning Architects and School Solutions, based on the actions that have been taking place for the last 2 months. Because last time we provided the board an update, it was in June of 2022. Our appendix in the presentation tonight, which is in your board agenda items, includes an appendix detailing actions that have taken place by the district and its staff since 2018 till now. But this has been something that has been long discussed since 2001. There we go. Okay. Most recently, we have finished a draft of the preliminary environmental assessment report submitted to DTSC, the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and received their comments back in reference to the report. Our consultants at MCI are updating the report and will submit a final report to DTSC this Thursday, barring any unforeseen circumstances. The draft of the PEA is on our new webpage, so the public can see that. So hopefully you have a chance to look at our new webpage, which has a lot of Communications Hill history for the public to look at. The draft of the PEA will also be on there, as well as the final version once that is completed. We continue to make progress and turn our focus to finalizing the letter of intent and drafting an agreement between the district, the landowner, Mr. Betancourt, and KB Homes. In doing so, we are working with the landowner and his representative to update the language as it relates to the village center, which includes a 30,000 square foot retail space on Communications Hill, which is within 500 feet of the potential school site location. The landowner is interested in strengthening the language that the district provides in a letter of intent to increase our partnership with the landowner and KB Homes so that the school site and the Communications Hill project can come to fruition. After staff and consultants have finished their presentation, we'll ask Jerry Stringus, who's a representative from the landowner and owns Stringus Properties, to provide an update on the retail center. Once the letter of intent and agreement has been finalized or close to being finalized, the district can begin work on the removal action work plan, which is listed here as our future milestone for the district. Just a quick reminder, the RAW, as it's called, among other things, establishes appropriate cleanup goals, evaluates alternatives, and recommends a plan that is protective of human health and environment and the local environment. There is an opportunity for public participation, requirements including conducting surveys to determine community needs and preferences, creating mailing lists to inform the people living within a quarter mile of the construction site as to what is transpiring, holding public comment periods for community feedback, distributing flyers, notices in newspapers, and final DTSC approval of the cleanup plan to be implemented upon completion of the public outreach process. We estimate this process to take about 9 months to complete. After this, the CEQA process can start. The primary purpose of the CEQA process is to avoid, reduce, or prevent environmental damage and foster an informed and transparent public decision-making process by providing information to the decision makers and the public concerning the environmental effects of a proposed project overseen by the state. As you can see, there are many layers in the process to ensure the safety of the community and the environment nearby the proposed school site. As we move forward, there are various factors that we need to consider, and some of those factors are listed here on this particular slide. Most importantly, we need to make sure that we have an adequate school footprint. As you can see in this picture, we have an area highlighted in yellow, which currently represents the location of the power lines at the school site. We are working with the landowner to have that moved over as far west as possible to increase the footprint of the potential school site. Of course, there are naturally occurring asbestos, which is one of the reasons why the PEA report was put together and drafted and given to DTSC. So we're making sure that plans going forward help to capture the NOAs at the site to ensure safety of those who use the site and those who are around the site. And there are other measures that are listed here. Ultimately, the work that will be done by KB Homes and the landowner will be paid for with developer fees that we've collected currently for projects that have been completed on Communications Hill. And lastly, there's a link on this webpage to the Communications Hill webpage with more information. On this slide here, we show the location of the school in orange. And to the left, you can see the potential location of the 2 restaurants in the village center. Linked to this file is a lengthy PDF document which shows the plan development and the specs relating to the village center and the possible layout of the potential restaurant. With that being said, we have John Dominguez from School Site Solutions to go over some future items relating to the critical path. Once he's done, I will have Mark Finney from Supermurray Finney Architects come up and talk about the skeleton layout of the school site. This is just to start the conversation because obviously we want to have a chance to meet with various stakeholders, staff, the board, the community members, to make sure that the school that is designed meets all the needs of the school district and the surrounding community. So John, are you available to speak on the future items?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jason and board for allowing me to speak tonight. I apologize for not being there. I had a prior commitment, and I'd like to invite Mark Finney also to join me in the in this segment of the presentation, as he'll be able to speak to the preliminary schematic design component. In regards to the submittal of the California Department of Education, or to the California Department of Education for site approval, Once we get all the documentation compiled, including the information that the DTSC requires, and a letter from the DTSC that tells us we have no further action to be taken. And we also have completed the CEQA document. And we have on your second bullet point, the educational specification and physical education site size justification study completed. We will have an ability then to submit to the California Department of Education for site approval. That process that we are embarking on is roughly, I would say, to complete CEQA and DTSC, roughly 9 months. And then it would go to, and that's at the back end of it. And then at the, and then it would go to 3-month review by the California Department of Education. Customarily, they have a 30-day window of review, but they're taking a little longer because they are short-staffed. And so what we're finding is that it's not unusual for them to take up to 3 months to get their final on the submittal for the site approval. So we have completed many of the studies that are necessary. What we need now is DTSC, and we need the and School Site Solutions needs to get started and finalizing the mitigated negative declaration, which is your CEQA document. Mark, would you like to talk about the preliminary schematic design phase?
Sure. Yeah, John, we're on that same critical path slide. By the way, good evening, board. Good evening, president, superintendent, and community. So John's asking me, I'll do the design a little later, John, because on another slide.
Okay.
But so the estimated cost for, I don't know if you're doing this slide actually, right? Yeah, okay. So we estimate a new school to be about $63 million. We didn't design a school yet. We have to meet with all the stakeholders. So we have to do since we do nothing but schools, we have the ability to do a pretend school, let's say, that fits on the site, that meets the criteria of what the school district's looking for on the hill. And the estimated cost today's dollar was $63 million. It goes up 4% a year. We had a big change in that this year, it was 20%. But on the average is 4%. So you got to assume that when I talk about the inflationary impact to the school site, if we do it in phases, you have to assume that it's going to cost more in the second phase and the third phase as the total cost. The school consists, and I'll show you a little bit more about this, but the assumption is 600 students, TK through 8. And the idea was to maybe phase it from TK through 3rd grade, and then another phase where you go 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then another phase where you do 7th and 8th and add a gym. And I'll show you that. There's costs that Jason mentioned, is that we're assuming the site will be graded and leveled out as part of a deal that we do with KB Homes as part of the developer fees. The power lines are unknown still. And Jerry might talk about that, I don't know. And then the completion, depending on how long it's phased, but it takes about 14 months to build the first phase. If you build the whole school, it could be about 1.5 years. And we're assuming it's 8 acres. And the money spent right now is about $174,000 just in all the tests and design and other things that are all related to this up to date. Okay. There we go. So I can, John, is it okay if I show the layout right now? I'll just go ahead and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in the first phase, a lot of developments in the past in San Jose did this, where you'll see that there were maybe an admin building and a kindergarten and a 1st grade were added first, maybe a library, and then the second phase, they added all the rest of the buildings. You kind of see that sometimes the architecture changes
after the first couple of years, you'll see a different architect did the second phase. So the idea here was to conceptually fit on the flattest part of the site, the right side of this picture is the flattest site and maybe the most accessible for a parking lot. So again, we will need to meet with user groups, that know, because we don't live on a school, we design schools, but we need input from and suggestions for what's in the classroom, how big the classrooms are, how many kindergartens we really need, and that kind of stuff. It comes from everybody in different positions. We meet with IT and maintenance people from the district, and then community members as well. But this phase just shows kindergarten, TK kindergarten. I'm not gonna point it, but they're just blocks of buildings, and then maybe a two-story component on that overlaps onto this top right side, the big box and the verticals. And that would be phase one, and some asphalt pavement, and of course, a really large parking lot. And maybe a second phase and third phase would be included. And so the yellow would be like maybe a second phase where we could squeeze in the, not squeeze in, but put where where an open space was another two-story building, which would be a fourth and fifth grade. And then the third phase, maybe we could add a new gym, move around where the library was, or the multi-use center could move from one place to another, enlarge in another space, and then create 2 new classrooms in that old space. So we just move things around and expand the school and build a brand new gym. And also then create a new grass area out in the far left side. We would also put a fence along I don't know if you see the dotted line. The big white area on the left side is where the hope is that the lines will go. And then we'll put a fence on the area that is what the California Department of Ed will require, okay? And that's just a better picture of maybe what it might look like when it's done. But again, buildings could be moved around. They could end up bigger. They could be 2-story, it could be 3 stories. We haven't really pursued that, okay?
And then the rest of it is the appendix showing actions that have been taken since June of 2018. And then that's it. And we can open it up for questions now. And we can also ask Jerry Stranges to talk a little bit about the village center if the board so chooses.
Okay, let's start with board questions first. Any board members have questions?
I might have some, but after, after Jerry's presentation.
Well, then do we want to do Jerry's presentation first?
It's up to the
Why don't we
board.
let Jerry speak first?
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Superintendent, members of the board, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. It's been a long haul, many, many years, and working with the district to effectuate a school here. And it's exciting to see the progress that's been made. We wanted to address just one issue. Part of our project involves what we call the Village Center. There's 2 very high-end dinner houses that are planned that are a very integral, important part of the overall project. And we're just noting that the distance from the school could prevent alcohol sales from being allowed in these 2 high-end, very nice dinner houses. That would be a serious problem. It would affect the ability to do the village center, and we want to address that now. The school is a very important component of this project. We support everything that's being done for the school. It's been planned for a long time, but we don't want the school kill the village center project, plain and simple. So what we suggest is that as a board, you direct your staff to work with our team to look at what potential solutions might exist. We want the school to go in. We're dedicating the land. We're making the improvements to the property. But we don't want to do it at the cost of not being able to do the village center and have the restaurants, the high-end restaurants that have been a integral part of the project. Happy to address any other questions. Thank you for your time.
So we'll start with board questions first. I'll start with you, Mama.
Just a couple questions on, I guess, where we are exactly in actually acquiring the land as the school district. I know there's a number of steps, in terms of the CEQA and CDE approval, but at what point would the district actually consider acquiring the land?
So the district wouldn't acquire the land until the actual agreement has been finalized and all terms have been settled. And so we're at that point now where we would love to move forward with drafting an agreement and ironing out those terms. And that can take some time.
Okay. My second question, kind of as a follow-up to that, is, I'm hearing that this is, something that the developer wants as well, is having a school up there. But has there been any form of agreement in terms of who's going to be moving and paying for the costs of moving the power lines? Because we know that is a significant cost. And I know there were some different ideas of how that could be done, where the school district considered moving them, much further out so that we would have more space for the actual school buildings and area. But is that something that, the landowner has agreed to do?
So the landowner and KB Homes would work together in trying to move the power lines. KB Homes has had several conversations with PG&E on that process. And essentially they would bear the initial cost of moving those lines. But remember, in part of this agreement, before we receive the land, in exchange for the services that are being performed by KB Homes and the landowner, we're exchanging developer fees that we've collected in the past. So there is a monetary transaction related to this.
Right, I understand that. I'm just trying to understand, how are we going to be prepared as a district to cover the additional costs of preparing the site and making sure that the power lines are moved? Or is that something KB Homes and the landowner are agreeing to do in its entirety?
Yeah, my understanding is that KB Homes and the landowner are going to do that in the entirety, and our, if you will, cash outlay is developer fees. It's capped with whatever developer fees that we've collected for communications help.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you, Jason and Jerry. Just had a question in terms of the village project, because we know that's an important, of course, very important part of the whole project. What would be the timeline that you're looking at there, Jerry, in terms of the village project? Would it be constructed like at the same time as the school, or once we get nailed down the solution, I guess, to what we're looking for, what would be the timeline that you're looking at from your perspective?
George, right now, the timing is subject to the final phases of the development. We've completed two phases, phases 1, 2. That's what's built and constructed now. We have phase 3, 4, which includes the village center.
Mhm.
And there's a couple issues dealing with the water board and the city that we're working through. So I think your question is, can we run concurrent, or and I think the intent would be to do that. The village center and the issue with being able to sell alcohol in a high-end restaurant so people can have a glass of wine while they're having dinner is subject to the ABC, and really need to work with your staff to coordinate exactly that, how to do this in a way that allows the school to proceed, but at the same time doesn't impact the ability to get the village center done, because we're not going to have the village center completed. We're not going to have the ability to obtain an ABC license for at least 3-4 years out. And we'll need to coordinate that with the development team. But the reason why we're here tonight is to alert the board and the public that it's an issue and we're concerned about it. We very much want to see the school come in. It's been planned since 1992.
Yeah.
George Shirakawa Sr. was chair of that committee. We'd like to see the school go forth, but we don't want to have that impact the ability to have a successful village center. So we need to work with your staff and do exactly that, George, coordinate this so that it's not one or the other, but it's both.
Thank
I
you,
hope that
Jerry.
answers
And
your question.
yeah, I definitely, from my perspective, would really like to see us go in and work with each other, and see what compromise we can come up with in terms of allowing both of these to be built. The village center, of course, the school. And you're correct that we have gone over this for about 3 decades, so it's good to see that we're possibly looking at a final project, in the future, not right away, but at least we have the plans and all that in place. So just want to thank all of you once more for being here and for bringing up those issues that we definitely have to deal with. But I'm hoping that we can find some sort of a compromise where we move forward, because I think we definitely need to see the completion of the school. And again, working with you in terms of being able to also complete the village center with those high-end restaurants that I know are very important to you at this time.
There's solutions, George. I think it's a question of working with your professional staff to do it in a way that works for both of us. We're here to just make sure you understand the issue. It's a serious issue.
Correct. Yeah, thank you.
So Jerry, this is one thing up there regarding the high-end restaurant. So the way from what I understand, is I have friends who own restaurants that sell alcohol, they also reach out to the neighbors, the neighborhood, and ask them if they would like to come to a meeting that voice their concerns about selling alcohol at a restaurant. So I think that's probably important as well. And you're right. Maybe you go contact the school, because it will be across the street from the school. One thing that's a positive about it is the alcohol, if it's a dinner house, it's not sold to at the school house. It's sold to the youth, right? Is that correct?
I think
Alcohol would not be sold in a restaurant till after school is out in the evening. Oh,
we're nowhere near having that kind of information. The plans of the village center are with the city. There's space allocated. In one case, close to 6, 7, almost 8,000 square feet. So we're talking about a high-end restaurant, and most likely, depending upon if it's open for lunch and dinner. If it's open for lunch, alcohol would be available at lunch. It would be any normal, like a Black Angus or any high-end restaurant that would
So it's
be-
lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It'd be with food service.
right.
Yeah, and that's been made clear with the city.
Okay, and from my perspective, that's also a little bit different than a liquor store selling alcohol to go, because they're serving it in the restaurant, right?
No, we're only talking about alcohol sales within the restaurant, the food
Right.
service component. We want successful restaurants they're not going to be successful if you can't have alcohol sales. That's
Okay.
the issue.
Okay, and so I think a concern that might come up in the shopping center is if there's also any kind of thought about having a smoke shop as well. So, because there are laws in the city code regarding having a smoke shop that close to a school as well. So, I mean, I don't know if it is or not, but that's just something to keep in mind.
That's a good
Okay.
point.
Yeah, okay, so I think, Jason, I have a question regarding the milestones. It was on page 2 of the presentation, the raw and the sequa.
Yes,
Okay, so you're gonna do the raw first and then the sequa, right?
to the extent that we can overlap some of those steps, we will.
Okay, I was gonna
And
ask you, can those be done simultaneously?
I think there could be some overlap with those two processes, and John Dominguez has been hired from School Site Solutions to help us with the secret process. And I believe last time we had the update, and John, you can add in, but you did say that this could overlap.
Okay, and then another question I have, I think it's for Mark, or maybe for Jason, it might be one of you. You shared phase 1 that was on slide 7 of the school. I think we had already spoke about this several years ago. It might have been longer. That why couldn't we just, we have parents on Communications Hill that need a school right now. So once we get all the environmental things taken care of, why couldn't we just put some portable classrooms up there to get it going? To get some classrooms started, maybe right adjacent to where the construction is going to be, like we did it at our Franklin school modernizations. So that we can have some temporary classrooms going so that we can get some of the children that are already living up there going to a school in their neighborhood. Is that, I think we talked about that. Is
Yeah,
that not in the plan now?
Absolutely, that's feasible. Of course, you could put temporary portables on the left side of this.
Right.
Yeah, of course, you could do that. It has to do with costs, that's all, right? Because you're paying for those, you're leasing those modulars and
Right.
placing them and putting power and maybe water to some of them. And then you'll be taking them away, so
Right.
it's just an added cost. It's called interim housing. Okay.
Okay, so Jason, can we get an estimate on that and see how much that would cost? So that, I don't know if we want 3 or 4 of them or more than that.
Yeah, it would be
Just, I think that there's parents on Communications Hill that have, I don't know, that maybe in a few years are gonna have children in kindergarten that would want to bring their children, even in portables, to have something to attend.
we can certainly put estimates together for that. And as long as we have good guidelines on what you want to see there. I know you said a couple of rooms, so we're looking at typically 2 rooms per grade level. And
Right.
I'm assuming TK kinder first would be ideal. And obviously we need a front office space.
So it'd be
Um,
about 7 buildings then.
Okay.
Eating.
Obviously this would be after the site is capped and everything has been taken care of. We've taken ownership of it and utilities have been brought to the
Right.
site. Yeah.
Right, but I think that urgency is a really important matter right now. Because like Jerry said, it's been 1992 since we started talking about this, and I know some people weren't even born yet. So, I mean, that's a long time. I was barely out of college. So I think we're ready to open a school up there, and that would also help raise the value of the homes in that area too. So I think we need to develop that area as much as we can. And I really am excited about the shopping center idea across the street from the school as well, because I think that's going to help as well. Having a full service area right there in that neighborhood for the Communications Hill residents. Okay, so do we?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on board member Alberta's question in regards to the, so one of the things that we worked on with KB and Mr. Bencourt when I got here was to define the space in regards to the capping of the site and then the relocation of the power lines. And so one of those were the initial discussions that we had to make sure that we could that we had a clear understanding of what the land was going to be, how the land was going to be delivered to the school district, so that we had a clear understanding what, when it meant capping, what did that mean? And making sure that DSA and the Department of Education would be able to approve it. And I think we had some discussions earlier on, a couple of years ago, in regards to making sure that we had that. I think we've gone to that point of agreement that KB would deliver a buildable platform, meaning it's capped so that it is compliant with the Department of Education, and that that the lines would be moved to the degree they can all the way to, to that side, so that we have more of the land to use to build a school. So we have submitted a letter to Mr. Bencourt indicating that we were ready to move forward with these understandings to try and take possession of the land. We also indicated in that letter that we would not oppose their waiver of the license to sell alcohol. So I'd like Jerry to maybe answer this question a little bit more further, because you're asking for the board to direct the administration in regards to working with you on some, to make sure that this happens. So what exactly are you asking? Because we have already indicated that we're not going to oppose it. So is there something else that you would like for us to consider in regards to that process?
As it stands right now, Mr. Superintendent, there's still risk that the school could go forward and the ABC will not allow the restaurants to sell alcohol. That's unacceptable to us. So we have to find a solution. There are some options, potentially phasing the project. There's state legislation that could be passed. Maybe there's other aspects. We'd like to be able to sit down and discuss that with you and see what we can do, because we want the school to go forward, but there is some risk and we're not prepared to take that risk.
So exactly what does that mean? That the proposal to allocate the land to this district for the building of the school would not be proposed? Or I guess I'm trying to understand, when you mean then it cannot move forward, is that what we're talking about?
Right now, the business deal is we're providing you the land improved so that you can build a school. Correct?
Correct.
That we're pretty much in agreement on that. The timing of this is such that there is a risk that we would not be able to get a alcohol sale for those two significant restaurants that will be anchoring and making viable that village center, which is a very important part. And we want to find a solution to that. It could be phasing the project, that might work. It could be state legislation, which we do have a precedent. Most of you are familiar with the staircase, the grand staircase at Communications Hill, that had been open 24 hours because it was a right-of-way roadway. And we were able to get legislation changed to allow it to be a park, so we could close it at night. So there is precedent to get legislation passed that would provide the kind of assurance that would allow us to go forward. Like to explore that. So there are a number of ways to maybe provide an assurance to us that going forward with the school would not jeopardize the success of the village center.
So you're looking for assurance from us in that would happen, but that would not be something that we would have control over, legislation being passed that would waive that. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding what when you say if you're not able to secure the guarantees of the restaurants, then there's potential problems with the building of the school site. I'm trying to understand, at what point does the district have assurances that we will have the land so that we can continue to move the project forward? If you're saying it is contingent on getting the waiver to build the restaurant, then that's a big risk for us too, to continue down this path of designing and getting all these approvals, if at the end of the day, we will not be able to get the land, for the district. So I'm trying to just make sure that we are all understanding where we stand right now as we move forward.
You're right. It's a problem. That's why we're talking about it right now and want to be able to engage and figure out a solution, because the school's an important component of this project. We support the school. We're very happy with the progress that's been made, but this issue has come up, and all we can do is present it and suggest that we work together to try to find a solution.
Jerry, I think that if you work with the superintendent on this, like you said, have some discussions. And if there's something you need from the board as far as like a resolution or something, stating a position on the village center, then we can make a decision on that at a board meeting. Would that help?
I think for tonight, it's just, I mean,
Well, we're not going to make it
we're
tonight. but
presenting
yeah.
that there's a concern, there's
Yeah.
an issue here.
Mhm.
And I think if the board was to direct your staff to work with us in the next few months to try to
Okay.
see if there are these kinds of solutions, and which we think there are. And the easiest solution is to wait. And I don't think nobody wants to do that. We've been waiting a long time already. But I think we want to put our heads together and try to figure out a way to make this work. We've had a good partnership for many years. We support what you're doing, but this has become an issue, and we're simply presenting it because we don't want to ignore it. It could kill the village center.
Right. So
And that would,
do any
that would
board
not be a
members
good
have
thing.
any objection to working with the staff on this? And then bringing it back to the board if any vote is necessary? Are there any objections to it? There are?
I want to be very clear that any direction that we give to staff is to look in the best interest of the district.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that takes priority overall, that they're looking after all aspects of this project, the safety, the power lines, everything in terms of how that gets settled in the greater context of settling the village issue. We see that that's an important step because obviously we kind of are at
Okay.
a standstill, and I want to make sure that the staff is addressing all of that at the same time.
Okay, so without giving direction parameters to the staff, are there any objections with them working with that? And then we can go ahead and work with the staff directly on providing any parameters or any concerns that we have, like what you just said. Okay? Any other objections?
I guess my question is, how is that different from what's already currently
It's
being
not.
done? Because based on what Superintendent Cruz said, we've already submitted letters, basically,
Yeah.
outlining our intent. So it seems like we're getting different information about what the expectation is compared to what we're being told. If it's truly the intent of the landowner to want to work in conjunction with the school, school districts so that we can build a school up there, I would think that there would be, willingness to understand that we have to be able to move forward at some point.
Right.
But if you're saying, that's not possible because from a business perspective, it's too much of a risk, that's not really in alignment with what we just said with having a letter submitting from our end, from what we can control as a school district, stating that we are willing to do to the extent that's within our power and jurisdiction.
I didn't hear him say it wasn't possible to move forward. I just heard him say that he would want to work with staff, right? I didn't hear you say it wasn't possible to have a school without those restaurants open.
We're suggesting that
What's that?
we're simply suggesting we work with staff and explore some of these solutions to resolve
Right.
this problem.
But it's not dependent, the school is not dependent on whether the restaurant's open or not. Is that what you said?
That's
I'm
what
sorry,
was
say it again.
stated.
Did you say that the school was dependent on if these restaurants opened or not?
Yes.
I want to hear him. I don't want to hear.
If the question, we're not prepared to go forward if we can't resolve this issue of being able to have these restaurants sell alcohol. That's
So
the reality.
the bottom line is there's no school if the restaurants cannot sell alcohol.
If you don't have the land, you're not gonna be able to do the school.
Right.
We're giving you the school site improved because we want to see the school there. This issue has sort of recently come up. We felt it was important to address it. You're now officially aware of it, and we'd like to be able to work with your staff to try to resolve it. We think there are solutions that can get this resolved.
How long do you think it would take to resolve this?
Well, I think initially here, we're probably, realistically talking about a couple months at least,
Okay.
to at least sit down and with our team and your professional staff, which are very good and have been very helpful. So,
But if you are talking about legislation, we know legislation doesn't happen that quickly. So I just want to be totally transparent. This is one of the reasons why we agendized so that we could have an open conversation, is that if the route is getting state legislation changed, that's not a couple months. So I just want to make sure that the board is understanding what is being asked, so that when we do sit down, that we're clear about what direction we're going and what are the conditions that we're going to be able to sort of think about. So I just want to make sure that we're completely transparent. And one of the options is to go ask for the legislation to be changed in order for this to happen. And what I just want to make clear, because I think the board president has asked,
that is
what I'm
one of
hearing is that
the,
if there's no restaurant to sell alcohol, what you're saying is that the landowner is prepared to rescind the offer of the land for us to build a school there. Is that a yes or a no?
I'm not sure we're prepared to.
Well, I see him nodding over there. I just want to make sure that we're clear, because that completely changes how we move forward.
Mr. Superintendent, what we're asking for is an opportunity to engage you and your staff to try to find some solutions to a significant problem
Yeah, no,
that
I get that.
affects both the school and the village center.
No, I understand that, but I just heard if there's no restaurant with the sale of alcohol, then there's no land, therefore there's no school. I just want to make sure that we're clear.
It's not my decision, but that's what we're concerned about. Absolutely.
It's
I think,
also, it's important to make clear that we don't have any jurisdiction over, legislation. We're a school board. We're here to help educate our children and to build schools and to grow. So that is our focus, and that's our jurisdiction. That's what our authority. So if you're asking us to get involved with a restaurant, a dinner house selling alcohol, I mean, we don't have any legislative authority over that. All we can do is, like the superintendent says, not object to it. I mean, I don't know. I still don't understand what you're asking us.
Yeah, I understand that.
Can I mention something? We keep talking about legislation being one way, but yet there might be other ways aside from legislation whereby we can go ahead and come to a compromise or agreement where both the restaurants with alcohol and the school gets built. So I think I'd like to explore that. I'd like to have our staff meet with you, your group, and kind of take a look at what might be some other options aside from legislation, because we've been talking a lot about legislation, but I think I want to get away from that. Kind of take a look at what other areas of agreement we can come to aside from the legislation piece.
I think all options are open. We're willing to discuss any way that we might be able to accomplish what is a mutual objective here.
Okay.
Again, we would like the school to be built and in as soon as possible.
Yeah.
This issue has recently come up and we're trying to resolve it. We're bringing it to your attention.
So I'm going to ask the board one more time. Are there any objections to them working with staff on this? Even though, and we already have been doing it, I know that, but at this point, are there any objections?
My only concern is that we are putting staff in a position where we are asking them to do something that's not feasible. I mean,
Well-
if staff has put forth
But-
clearly the letter and the options,
But they're
I mean,
not going
that
to make
would be-
decisions. They're just going to discuss it.
Yeah, so I think if I could, Board President, what we can and we will, set up a meeting with Mr. Bencourt and Stranges to at least discuss what are all the different options like Board Member Sanchez has said. We will agendize this as a closed session item under property management and bring to the board whatever options that we are able to identify that are feasible within our jurisdiction, and that then get the board to give us some direction in regards to the negotiation of the potential acquiring of the land. That would be within the scope of the board and how we can have these kinds of discussions when it comes around in terms of land and acquiring of land. So if the board president would be agreeable with that, then that's how I would recommend that we proceed.
And since I see no other objections, then we'll go ahead and proceed that way. You can work with the staff and we'll see what comes out of those discussions, Jerry. Thank you very much for coming.
That's
Appreciate
perfect.
it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, but
Thank you, Jerry.
let's stay here. If there's anybody in the public that would like to ask questions or make a comment, you can feel free to raise your hand and stand up and none. And I think we might have had another board question or comment.
No, I think we're on the right path and I definitely look forward to both, sides coming together and kind of taking a look at the other ways of bringing resolution.
Thank
what I
you very
want.
much for your consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on with the agenda. We're on consent items. Number 6. Okay, so before we proceed, are there any consent items under number 6 and 7 that the board would like to pull? Okay. I don't know why my agenda is not working. Okay, okay, then we'll start with consent items number 6. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items in accordance with board bylaws 9323. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a public comment on consent items under item number 6? Seeing none, I will now accept a motion to approve consent items 6.1 to 6.05.
Mr. President, I move to approve items 6.01 through 6.05.
second,
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent item 6.01 to 6.05. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and the vote is unanimous. Consent item number 7. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment on consent on 7.01 to 7.05? Seeing none, I will accept the motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve items 7.01 through 7.05.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent items 7.01 to 7.05. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
And that passes unanimous. Action items. Action item 8.01. Clerk Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to approve that the personnel report be approved and submitted, and that the employment of the following employees be improved. Hannah Kreutzfeld, teacher, math, Bridges, 8/25/22. Shalom Gutam, paraeducator, Ramblewood, 8/15/22. Rebecca Lemus, paraeducator, Santee, 8/22/22. Christopher Doy, school occupational therapist, special education department, 9/6/22. Jennifer Nguyen, SLS specialist, Swiss district office, 8/22/22. Cecilia Nguyen, bus driver, transportation, 8/22/22. And that the resignation for the following employees also be approved. Francisco Santabainaz, paraeducator, SPED, Bridges, 8/26/22. Daniel Aguilar, accountant assistant, fiscal services district office, 8/15/22. Deborah Lucas, secretary 1, district office maintenance, 9/2/22. Diana Romero Corona, noon duty supervisor, Shirakawa, 8/19/22. And that the promotion for the following employees be approved. Francisco Santabainez, teacher, SDC Bridges, 8/29/22.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel addendum. All those in favor say aye. And that passes unanimous. Okay, item 8.02, August 9th board meeting minutes. If the board is ready to move to approve, I will accept a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for approval of item 8.02, August 9th, 2022 board meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve August 9th, 2022 board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous, passes. Item 8.03, resolution number 2022-39, California Schools Healthy Air, Plumbing, and Efficiency Program. Jason.
So as you may recall, last year, the district applied for this grant and received $1.3 million worth in grants to look at our HVAC units and provide updated assessments, general maintenance, and other adjustments. We applied again for the third round of CalShape program funding, and we received another $168,000 approximately in grant funds to cover the last 2 remaining sites, Stonegate and Windmill. And we are looking to pass this resolution and allow staff to file the paperwork so that we can receive these grant funds and improve our HVAC units.
Any questions from the board?
Just have one quick question. In terms of the 2 schools, the filters, were those the MERV filters that were replaced at the rest of the schools?
Yeah, all sites already have MERV filters.
Okay.
So we're doing additional assessment work with these grant funds to help maintain them, because obviously you need to maintain these units on a frequent basis to make sure they're working properly and providing the appropriate ventilation, heating, and cooling throughout the year.
But in terms of the actual functioning of the HVAC systems, air conditioning and all of that, is that an issue at any of our sites, or is that?
So no, we went through a very laborious process to update our HVAC units. From time to time, some units will go down, and there are some older units that we'd love to replace. At Stonegate, we replaced the whole entire site's HVAC units, not this summer, but the past summer. So those units are working properly, but we're using this grant funding to help maintain the unit so that, we don't need to buy another unit after just changing them all. So Windmill was just remodeled a few years ago, so no issues there. But some of our other school sites have older units, so they require more maintenance work, and we have our HVAC team as well as outside vendors that we use to help maintain the units. And sometimes if they do go down and they're down for an extended period of time, we do have portable filters that we can send out to the school sites or relocate staff and students to another room until the units are back up and running.
Thank you, Jason.
Any other questions from the board or comments? Seeing none, I will accept a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item 8.03, resolution 2022-39.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 2022-39. All those in favor say aye. And the vote is unanimous. Okay, item 8.04, professional services agreement. Kim Sheffield and Annette.
Yes, this is a professional service agreement for retiree Mr. Kim Sheffield to be the interim principal for the independent study program through Ed Services for the year of August 15th, 2022 through June 16th, 2023.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I will accept the motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve item 8.04, the professional services agreement for Mr. Kim Sheffield.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the professional services agreement for Kim Sheffield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the vote is unanimous. Agenda item 9, communications from the superintendent.
So we're in week 2, all except for CCA. I got to remember CCA is in week 3. And I just want to report that, things are going as smooth as they can be for, opening a school still in the pandemic. And just want to thank all the staff for their just incredible work in launching the school year. And, just very thankful that we have such dedicated staff to make sure that our students were welcome and into our schools and, successfully opened. We do now start the season of back to school nights. And so those are coming up this week and into the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to visiting for the first time in over 2 years, in-person back to school nights. So I'm excited to be able to open our doors and once again see our parents and our students come in and celebrate these milestones because I think we took for granted being in person, and so every time we hit one of these milestones, it's important to celebrate that we are able to do this. So just looking forward to visiting the schools and welcoming our parents back into our campuses. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 10, 10.01, board member reports, and I will start with board member Maimona Alberta.
Thank you, Vice President, Acting President Rodriguez. I want to thank all staff, but particularly our cabinet and Superintendent Cruz for a very, very well done convocation celebration. I think all the feedback I received was very positive and complete with from the food to the mariachi. It just was a great way to set the tone for starting this new school year, and just hearing very positive feedback as well on the start of the school year. So thank you to everyone who helped put that together. And likewise, also with our facilities tour, it's always really nice to see, the upgrades and all the different, new, fresh, exciting things happening at our schools, because we know that's what the kids look forward to as well. It helps everyone feel like, this is the school is the place to be, and certainly creating a welcoming environment for our community as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. George?
Also attended the back to school convocation and did all the remarks by board member Maimona. And also thank you, Maimona, for making a great speech to our staff. It was very, very nice, very moving what you said, and very, very well taken by everyone. Thank you again. Also went on the tour of facilities this past Thursday. Again, want to take Jason and everyone else who was there to help us along and see where we're at with our construction sites. Also went to Hellier School on the first day of school, and principal has seemed to have invited parents to go there. And so I was able to go ahead and just say a few quick words and thank them very much for being involved with their kids' education. And so that was a real nice start. The principal had the coffee, donuts on for all the parents. So it's a nice start to the school year. That's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Manuel?
Thank you. And I'd also like to echo the praise, the high praise of the facilities tour. It's always important to see our facilities and how they're, improving. And that's something that I think everybody's going to enjoy as they come back from the summer to see the new and improved items that are at their school sites. The last time I was here with the board, I talked about my son opening school. Now I get to talk about my daughter. Very happy and proud that she's starting second grade here at Shirakawa, and looking forward to the back to school nights and we're already getting all the forms and everything, but a big thank you to all the staff, the teachers, the classified, the principals, the APs, the everybody who's making this happen, because it's I can see the excitement not only in my daughter's face, but on all the kids, that they're glad to be back and glad to see, old friends and getting together to learn.
Good, thank you, Manuel. And then my report is, I also attended the convocation and it was outstanding. Just a lot of credit to the planning of it and the implementation. It just went very well. And I'd like to thank board member Memona Alberta for the keynote speech. It was outstanding. So it just added to the value of the convocation. And then also attended the facility tour, and it'll be nice to get back to our board meeting room. We're using this temporarily. So it'll be nice, and ending the facility tour by visiting all the improvements that are made to the board meeting room. It's going to be very exciting to have all the technology, and maybe some days we'll watch a football game there or something, because that's what it looks like. A nice, all the monitors look really nice. So I loved all the new technology, and thank you, Superintendent Cruz, for helping plan that, or Jason to help implement that as well, because it looks really nice. And also it was nice to see the new ed services remodeled as well, because that's going to be really nice. And what I saw from the explanation in the floor plan was that it's very what we call in business customer centric. So it's really tailoring to the customers or the parents who walk in that you're serving. So I think that's great. Okay, so we will move on. Number 10.02, agenda item requests. Are there any agenda item requests? We do have some agenda items coming up. Yeah, any other agenda item requests? See none. Agenda item 11, future business, there is none. 12, future meeting dates. September 13th, we'll have our next regular board meeting, followed by a parent meeting at Santee School, and then we will return to the district office for our regular board meeting in our brand new board room. So it'll be ready by then. 20, right?
That's the plan. That's the goal.
All right. So then September 27th, we have a regular board meeting, and then the 25th, we have a parent meeting at College Connection Academy. And after that, we will have our regular board meeting at 8 p.m. No closed session items to discuss. So on to item 14, adjournment. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion for adjournment at this time.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. The meeting is now adjourned.